Good evening, everyone. Everyone in the United States and the world and the galaxy and all the ships at sea. I'm Professor Christopher McLaughlin, and this is The Ghost Show. I've been waiting forever to share that with the rest of humanity. Mike Lafferty, my friend, you have outdone yourself.
Just wanted to give you something that was more on theme than the previous intro. So
the theme from Chocolate Jones, The Temple of Funk, will always have a great fondness in my heart there. All righty. Well, welcome to the Ghost Show podcast, everybody. We're back for another season, and at the time that we're just coincidentally about to launch a new Kickstarter, and that's going to be our main focus tonight. And joining me to talk about this topic, well, I'll just go around here. First of all, is the amazing Mike Lafferty, the godfather of the Banff family of podcasts. Mike, say hi and tell folks a little about yourself.
Like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, I'm just happy to be here. So,
righty, and heading down to the second row, we have a guy well known to the fine people in Sin City in the Vegas area, a fabulous author, and a guy who joined us for Volume 2 and is back for Volume 3, Mr. Mike Weatherford. Mike, say hello and tell the folks a little about yourself.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I have an extremely local following from all my years of newspapering at the Las Vegas Review-Journal, where I was entertainment reporter and columnist. So venturing into the creative stuff is new waters for me.
And then we have the legend herself back for a third go around with the Ghost Show. Lisa Morton, please tell us about yourself and say hi to the folks.
Hey, hi. Thank you for that fabulous introduction. I am an author. I call myself a reformed screenwriter because I got out of Hollywood while I could. And I'm a Halloween expert. And my next book will be out October 1st from Applause Books. It's called The Art of the Zombie Movie.
Ooh. Yes. I've seen the cover of that. It's extraordinary. I mean, that cover and your name on it, boom, hit buy. So, yes, awesome stuff there. All righty. Well, I'm going to give these folks a chance to talk about what they're up to in just a minute. But for those of you that may be new to this whole thing, talk about what we're up to. It is my supreme blessing in life to be the creative pit boss of Ghost Show Press, my little imprint dedicated to, first of all, giving writers a chance to just be able to write and not have to worry about things like getting cheated out of payment or books or getting plagiarized or other things, which totally happened to me. Also, our little niche seems to be finding underappreciated films and giving you fun reasons why in this world of infinite choice you should maybe wander off the path of endless sequels, reboots, reimagining, and see something truly, truly offbeat. And I am blessed with the most outstanding group of writers on this planet. And yes, I will fight you on that score. I am from rural Virginia. I fight dirty. Don't advise taking us on. But yes, I have the world's best group of writers to talk about these films. And for those of you that may not be familiar, we have done this once, talking about scary movies and transgressive horror. You see, it is a real actual book and it exists and you can buy it. And then, just dissed sequels. And now I have to talk about that. Yeah, we did another one. We came back and did science fiction movies, subversive sci-fi. And now starting tomorrow, we're going to go back and try to do a third one. The third one, and let me go ahead and share the link to that for the good folks here. All right, and then let me do my trick here. I still don't make okay there. Hey, there we go. The little trick I learned during the off season. Yes, there you go. There's a link to it. Our third volume is a suggestion I got from one of our writers, the wonderful Mr. Lucian Solban, who suggested that we sort of make it not genre specific, but just talk about films that either failed at the box office or failed with critics, and kind of stick up for the underdog. And it just seemed like such a natural thing for my little upstart label to do. So, so there you go. So there's the link to the Kickstarter if you want to sign up to be notified when it goes live sometime sometime tomorrow-ish. I got a couple of last-minute things I want to do, but sometime tomorrow it will launch. This, if you sign up, this will notify you the second it goes live, and then you can jump on and hopefully make the book happen. And if you want a lot of detail about this, because I don't want to talk to all my guests for too much longer, but if you go to Facebook and go to the Ghost Show Press Facebook page, we've already released a complete list of the authors and the titles they're going to be covering, and right now it's shaping up to be a thick book. You can see that like me, they're steadily growing wider as time goes by, and right now, just today, Fantastic Flops will be at least the size of Subversive Sci-Fi, and depending on the generosity of you good people, we always give our backers the opportunity to add to it. It will be an even more hefty book. So we haven't ballistic tested these, but I'm thinking, someday a copy of Fantastic Flops may save someone's life. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that thing could stop a reasonably sized knife. I may have to test that. I can't prove it. Don't sue me. But there you go. So you get a fantastic book and something that may save your life someday. So yes, all right.
Chris,
so yes,
using the internet, I just created a tiny URL for your Kickstarter. tinyurl.com/fantasticflops. It's short. It's fun. I sent you in private chat, and it's easy to say on the air for our listeners on iTunes.
Oh, thank you so much.
/fantasticflops takes you right to the Kickstarter pre-launch page.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mike is a longtime friend and my business partner, and the guy who understands that the internet isn't just me being in my wizard tower, which is kind of what it feels like right now. So yes, he's here to do things like actually work the internet for me. He's like the grandson I never had in that regard.
As I said before, I'm just Scooter in the Muppet Show in our Ghost Show Press relationship. So yeah.
Okay, that'll be our follow-up topic tonight. Where do we fit in this little Muppet Show thing? Alrighty. Okay. Well, let me welcome let me bring my writers into this. Give you a chance to talk about what they're doing. Mike, you want to talk about your movie and why you picked it and what drew you to that over the plethora of failed films in this world?
Well, first of all, Showgirls was taken, and I actually wrote about that in my own book a long time ago. So, but yeah, a few years ago, I took my daughter and her buddies to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and I kind of got that Hammer horror vibe. And as I explain in the essay, ever since the real actual first wave of Hammer petered out and with To the Devil a Daughter in 1975, just before I got my driver's license, every few years, I'd come along and I go, wow, if Hammer was a thing, this is what I kind of envisioned that they would be making. And now I guess Hammer kind of is a thing, and we go into that a little bit at the top of the essay. But the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies was like, this is kind of a natural continuation of Captain Kronos and the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, because it has a little bit of swordplay, has a little bit of kung fu, and all kind of wrapped in this Jane Austen veneer of people speaking with better diction than me.
Wow. It's so close to my heart to be in the year 2023 and being able to drop Legend of the Seven Golden Vampire references. I feel like I'm living a good life anytime I can do that. Well, that was such really, I've read it. It's a great piece, and honestly, sheer brilliant to tie in the legendary Hammer films with this very 21st century type of film there. And yes, by the way, Hammer is back. If anybody haven't heard, they're doing a modern like a remake of Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde with Eddie Izzard. And
when you get your drop dead deadline, we'll look into that. Apparently they kind of help co-distribute things that other people make, but we'll kind of see. This one though, I point out, because I had to take you pretty literally on the title of Fantastic Flops, and according to the Wikipedia, it wasn't an expensive movie. It's like 28 million, which is chump change these days, and it grossed like 14 million. And I'm like, ouch.
Yeah, and regardless of its marriage, you had to feel for anybody that failed with a zombie you knew somebody would go a zombie too far, and you just kind of feel bad it was them, because there were
based on a New York Times bestseller. So
there were far more deserving projects out there that deserve to be the first true zombie flop, but hopefully we can get the film a little more of the attention that it's due there.
Somehow The Walking Dead is still in the air.
Well, it's metastasized and mutated. It's gone the way of COVID. So yes, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but on the Hammer Films page that I know we both frequent, somebody bumped into Izzard, and Izzard gave him 2 autographs. One is each character, with 2 very which I mean, really, what an amazing individual and an amazing talent there. So
the writer's strike goes on. This might get wide release. Who knows?
It may be time to dust off my old VHS camera. But no. Couldn't do that to other writers. No. We are unapologetically behind the WGA here.
Only field pieces, only documentaries.
Solidarity.
Yes, indeed. Anybody out there fighting for creative freedom and the ability to write and still make a decent living, we're with you 1,000%. All righty. Well, Lisa, welcome back for a third go round. So blessed to have you gracing our books. And now you are back with another interesting choice. You want to talk a second about your movie and why you picked it?
I'm afraid to say mine is also a zombie movie. We should hasten to add that this is not the book of zombie flops. We were discussing the other day the movie that I actually thought of first, but was sure everyone in the book would try to do, was Exorcist II: The Heretic. And now I'm almost kicking myself that I didn't take Exorcist II: The Heretic, which I do believe is a fantastic flop in both senses of both. I mean, every sense of both words. And but the movie I chose because I had just finished doing a year's worth of research into zombie films for my forthcoming book was George Romero's Survival of the Dead, which is the only one of his 6 zombie films that failed at the box office, and that I think is also an artistic failure. So I kind of cheated your guidelines a little bit because I wrote about a flop that I actually do not love. But I wanted to explore why this movie doesn't work, because it's one of those movies that you watch it and you can't, as you're watching it, and if you're somebody like me who has loved like every single other George Romero zombie movie, you're watching Survival of the Dead, which was his last feature film, and you're thinking, what's wrong with this? Why isn't this working? So I took your invite into this book as my opportunity to really dig into that and figure out why this movie didn't work. And I watched all kinds of behind the scenes stuff on it, and I read interviews, and I dug into all kinds of stuff on it. And I think I have something of an answer as to why it didn't work, and it was kind of twofold. I think Romero made the kind of odd choice of approaching it as a Western, and in some respects it almost works better as a Western than a zombie movie. And the big thing that I uncovered was that they were just absolutely slapped upside the head over and over with shooting problems. And I think you can see that in the movie. One of the things I've always loved about Romero as a filmmaker is his editing. And that movie didn't have his usual sense of really nice editing. And I think it was because he just didn't have enough footage to cut around. And so, yeah, it's an odd movie. It's an odd flop. It's one of those things that I'm still learning things about it, even after having finished this essay. But anyways, that's why I chose that one, to answer my own personal questions about it.
Yeah, I mean, George was always known for being able to work fast and lean, and for one of his movies to actually not succeed at the box office because he was able to deliver on such a reasonable budget, that was pretty remarkable. Yeah.
And it has a couple of things that people love about zombie movies. It's got some very creative deaths. It's got a zombie that's lit up and blown apart by flares on board a ship. What's not to love? But overall, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. There, it kind of, I mean, it seems like a odd thing to say about a zombie film. It seems to lose some of the warmth that Romero had when he was working in Pittsburgh in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And because it just felt like when he still had those closer ties to Pittsburgh, he obviously wasn't always presenting sympathetic characters, but they seemed believable. That you could tell these were based on people he had encountered. I never quite got the sense that the people in Survival were real in any sense.
Yeah, there again we go back to the Western. They seem like cowboys. So
yeah. All righty. Okay. And so yeah. Oh, hold on a second. We got a late arrival here. All right, let's see here. All right. Hello, John. Can you hear us? We've added you to the stream, John. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Awesome. All righty. So in the best traditional of old time professional wrestling, we got a last minute run in here. And John, you want to introduce yourself and say hello to the people?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. As the professor stated, my first name is John. I have collaborated with the professor on a number of other projects, including the first 2 volumes in the series where we did transgressive horror and subversive sci-fi. My topic of choice in the first volume was Godzilla. In the second, it was Fantastic Planet. This time around, I am tackling the much more recent film, which is Underwater, which probably it was 2020 and largely, no pun intended, just sank without, sank beneath, I guess pun intended, sank beneath the waves, left barely a ripple, whatever bad, aquatic theme turn of phrase you want to toss in there. And it was not promoted much at all. It was probably seen as no more than the latest in an innumerable number of innumerable number. No, that's a concept. Innumerable alien ripoffs. It had a lead actress, Kirsten Stewart, who was at the time not thought of very well, probably considered box office poison. With the last few films she's done, she's turned her reputation around. But Underwater has a very big, literally and figuratively, reveal at the end, and it makes you reconsider just about all the events in the film. In addition, I'm going to make the case that as a horror film, Underwater, as a survival-themed horror film, Underwater is much more effective than it was given credit for. For example, I talk about how it was, one critique of the film was that the action scenes are a little confusing. They're hard to follow. The underwater cinematography sometimes makes things unclear. The pace of the film as the protagonists, as the survivors are plodding along the ocean floor, 7 miles beneath the waves, attempting to reach their only hope of survival, is sometimes slow to the point of being glacial. I'm like, well, yeah, it really is, because they're plodding along in bulky pressure suits. With one of them with a faulty oxygen tank, attempting to cross the ocean floor to reach these escape pods at an abandoned underwater mining station, and that's even before they've ever encountered these aquatic aberrations that then begin to stalk them mercilessly.
You know, back in my day, we had to watch Ernest Borgnine and Shelley Winters try to escape from underwater doom, and we liked it. So yeah.
We always, and back when our smart-ass college days, we always thought any movie would benefit by having that little box at the bottom that said, and Ernest Borgnine as Chip.
All right. Okay. So we're Poseidon Adventure partisans. Lisa, do you have a favorite underwater Jeopardy movie?
Oh, I'm sure I do, and I'm not coming up with one at the moment somehow. I guess I would probably go with Poseidon Adventure.
There we go.
Yeah, I will confess I just bought Beyond the Poseidon Adventure on Blu-ray. I may have some sort of problem. So, all right. Well, Mike's gone off to watch stuff, or I would poke his brain about favorite underwater survival.
I was
Mike,
just
do you have a favorite underwater survival film?
I was going to say the same one John just said. I watched something with my wife last year, and we really enjoyed it. I had a Russian friend who I used to drink heavily with, and she hated most American cinema. And she would say, "You guys, there's always a happy ending. People always fall in love, and it's all happy." And that's not how it is. Russia, we make movies. Everyone dies except for one person who tells the story. And I was watching this movie, and I was like, "Well, okay, this is like a Russian film then." Because that's weird. But yeah, I thought it was very effective. I thought the pacing was good. I was surprised it didn't do better. So yeah.
It was barely marketed.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I think it was something the studio wrote off. You know, when I watched it and then I read a little bit about it, especially about what, again, there's a big reveal, and this time no pun intended, although there could be. I might say a colossal reveal at the end, and it puts everything in a much worse light for the protagonist and for humanity in general. But even before that, what I was struck by was that I'd say that the story writers and the script writers and the director may have sacrificed their audience and hence profitability for verisimilitude. I mean, obviously the tones of the films are wildly different, but a film like Aquaman, which was like one of the very few successful DC films, they shot underwater action sequences, as if you're just, you're looking through like, water that's just pristine and clear. Yeah. It's like a little blue tint to the screen. And here, everything is, once they make their escape from the wreckage of the first station, everything is murky, dark. Frankly, I felt like I was right there with them with limited peripheral vision, probably with their, shallow breath, fogging up the interior of the pressure suits to some extent. Probably barely able to hear each other through the radio connections. Mm-hmm. It's not as the action isn't as involving as what you saw on the going back to Alien, the Nostromo, if I'm remembering that correctly, the name of the original spacecraft, where they were being hunted and hunting the alien in turn, and especially when they do encounter the creatures that start picking them off one by one, they really have no effective means of fighting back. They do a little improvisation, but they're a handful of people, 7 miles under the ocean in pressure suits. They don't have any weapons, and as I note in my as I noted in when I began writing about it, there's no flamethrowers, so you can't do what Kurt Russell did in The Thing, even though he was in the Antarctic. There's no explosive decompression hatches to blow the alien out of the spaceship, they're kind of well and truly screwed.
Oh. Well, yeah, and that's not always easy for modern audiences to deal with, and I have to put in a word for our friend Alex Bledsoe, who bravely opted to do Raise the Titanic for this one, and he has a wonderful passage in there about how they opted they went on the premise the Titanic would be down in like these incredibly murky waters, and he talks about seeing it for the first time, like this incredibly murky film on VHS. And he makes it sound like it's like an animated Rorschach test for most of its hour and 40 minutes. It's like, well, that blob seems to be in some jeopardy. So well,
and
now
I apologize. I have to run off now to another appointment. So I cannot wait to see this book. And I'm sorry I can't hang around to hear more about these fabulous essays. But I will bid
well, thanks for popping in. We appreciate it. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. I hope. Thank you for another great essay.
Oh, and by the way, Professor,
thank you very much. Good night.
Yeah.
I did send off just a little while ago about the first third of my first draft to you.
I got it.
I do apologize that the going has been a little slow with me lately. And thank you for your indulgence. The last kind of year and a half, quite frankly, there have been, several family members who've been going through health-related issues, and my spouse just had fairly significant surgery about 2 months ago. So, and then yesterday, she was kind of coming back like a champ, and then yesterday she just got a horrendous case of a summer flu. So I've been a bit frazzled of late.
Well, we'll keep sending good vibes and prayers and hope. And hey, nothing lasts, especially bad times. Things do turn around, and we're hoping that'll be happening soon for you. Except
for the characters in Underwater.
That whole thing reminded me of I was in a debate on a film forum the other day, and they were talking about films that are unwatchable. And somebody had dredged up this obscure film from Bill Rebane. If you know Bill Rebane, it means you either live in Wisconsin or you've seen Giant Spider Invasion too many times. The legendary VW bus made to look like a giant spider who goes after Alan Hale Jr. and such. And this was his apocalyptic end of the world, no budget masterpiece. And people were talking about how just unwatchable it is. And I had to jump in and say, I have a weird affection for this film because maybe more so than usual. It's an end of the world film where the characters never figure out what's going on, and it's mostly about how really boring their lives are. And I'm thinking, like, this is kind of what the end of the world, if you weren't wiped out, this is kind of what the end of the world would be like. And I kind of respect Rebane's no budget verisimilitude on that.
The Wi-Fi gets cut off. It'd be kind of cool to not know it's the end of the world, I guess.
I'd still have school. I'd never notice. They might put us on 2-hour delay for that.
Just keep showing up until
we have no attendance policy. The fact that nobody else showed up would not register on me a bit. And I say that as the guy who's like showed up on time for every 2-hour delay we had this year. So, well, Mike, let me ask you a question here. I'm sorry, Lisa had to go before I could put this to both of you, but you two both jumped into the 21st century zombie phenomenon. Is there any life in it at all in 2023 now that we're on the umpteenth Walking Dead spinoff? Is there anything left to be said with zombies at this point, or do they just need to go away for a while?
Yeah, I don't know. That might be one of the reasons the Pride and Prejudice and zombies bombed. And I pointed out, about the time The Walking Dead came on and stuff, our daughter's peers at middle school were watching The Walking Dead on TV. And we were kind of appalled, because, Dawn of the Dead went out unrated. It was pretty extreme stuff. And we were like in high school by then. And so I don't know if people can get desensitized at how much blood and guts, and if they follow the Romero rules, then all zombie movies are gonna kind of start to look the same. And I think I point out in my essay that the Pride and Prejudice, the effects aren't great compared to The Walking Dead. You know, they're a little tame and timid, and then the fact that it works for the Jane Austen humor of the film, but some of the zombies talk, and there's kind of a slow transition to zombiedom. And I think it works for the movie, but I have a feeling The Walking Dead had been on TV enough by then that people are like, these aren't zombies. These are, well, I don't know, this is some kind of plague or some kind of disease. So to that respect, if the zombie movies aren't allowed to break the rules and eat sharks anymore, then I don't know. It might be a little played out.
Well, I think that, it can be a little difficult. There was there were the 28 Days Later and then 28 Weeks Later films, which were critically and commercially successful, which technically weren't zombie films in the sense that they were living human beings who were simply essentially turned feral and virulent by a plague, but I think that when you look at even the Walking Dead series, which enjoyed a great deal of popularity in the beginning, that faltered in recent years. The spin-offs more so, because the writers at some point decided that it was okay to have characters act like absolute bloody idiots. If they just felt the need to inject some moment of shock value, or if they had decided on a particular cliffhanger or a particular ending to an episode, that they were just going to have the characters act like bloody fools, even if they were otherwise shown to be these smart, experienced, savvy people. And you can get away with that a little bit if you justify it in that type of apocalyptic horror setting as these people being exhausted, frightened, or even terrified, having gone without sleep. Sure, that under those circumstances, you could just make really bad decisions. But when you just have to have them repeatedly doing things where after having lived in this world, survived in this type of landscape for 3, 5, 10 years, you just wouldn't do that. I mean, I grant you that Einstein once said that stupidity, there's what was it exactly? There's a limit to imagination, but not to stupidity. And I mean, I might see that, but Darwin. The Darwin Awards are going to be handed out fast and freely in a zombie apocalypse. So if you get to year 5, you probably weeded out the people that weren't going to make it to year 5. Unless they just got really, really lucky, or just didn't, if they just had a 5-year stock of like food and water. At the top of a high rise that was hermetically sealed off. So,
and they like it's what you said, and then they kind of yo-yoed between doing incredibly stupid stuff, like the whole internet thing is like why is Rick the leader again? He never makes a good decision. And then the show really worked when it was like none of these leads are locked in stone. Anybody could be killed off of.
Correct.
And the show really worked. And when it stopped that, then it was kind of like what you're talking about on one end, really doing dumb stuff, and on the other end, the kind of superhero zombie kung fu.
Right. Like right. At a certain point, you knew Daryl Dixon was not was safe. You knew you likely knew Carol was safe.
Yeah.
When they announced the spin-offs before the end of the original series, well, okay. So I know Negan is safe, although I know Negan is safe. I know Maggie is safe. I know her son is safe. They all survived to for the spinoff. So yeah, in the early days, you had the feeling anyone, and I think this paralleled, from what I've been told, Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, which is that early on in the series and in the TV series, they weren't following the established heroic fantasy tropes, and early on, Invincible wasn't following the established horror tropes about which characters are going to live, which characters are doomed, and then as certain characters got more audience buy-in and the actors became popular, and certainly both the audience and the writers and the and AMC became financially vested in seeing that continue. Well, then from that point on, certain characters are invincible. It doesn't matter if logically they should have died. They were going to survive. I mean, I remember the situation with Glenn, and I liked Glenn's character. Eventually he did meet his end as he did in the TV series, but there was a time earlier where he was just put in an impossible situation by the writers, and where there were hundreds of these ravenous zombies swarming around him, and he manages to just scuttle under a dumpster, and somehow that saves him, and eventually they just all wander off. I mean, it was just the sort of thing that breaks
Buck Rogers serial kind of stuff.
You can suspend disbelief, but you can't pretend to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah. It would have been the perfect time just to leave him in danger and then just have him wander back on camera and do a song and dance number like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He's going to tell. He's going to tell.
Yeah, if you put
at that point when you got to lose, right?
Situation, you got to come up with something just semi-plausible. And they kept they kept doing that, I think, once too often. Mm-hmm. Or then even and I think this was also true in the TV series. The writer fell in love with Negan, and he became, he literally just became a Mary Sue villain. He was the toughest, smartest, bravest, most charismatic. And there was a scene in the TV series where they clearly had the drop on him, just gunned him down. But for some reason, it wasn't time yet. That wasn't part of the plan we had. That wasn't part of our battle plan.
You really want Seth Green from Austin Powers to wander like, no, I've got a gun in my room right now. Let's just go shoot him.
We'll shoot him together.
Shoot him already.
Mike, how about you? Is there any life left in zombies, or do they need to just go away for a while?
Are you talking to me or Mr. Weatherford?
Well, Mike Lafferty, you're the only one who had a chance to weigh in on this. But sorry, yes, I have two mics. Yes.
I thought the superhero genre was dead years ago, but some of them keep making new movies. So I don't think there's such a thing as genre fatigue, as long as you keep doing quality things with that genre. Are we reaching a point where they're just making lazy zombie movies? I'm not sure if I can be the judge of that, but
Well, I mean, Train to Busan a few years ago was really good.
Yeah, fair enough.
There was a French film called Night Eats the World, and there was a Korean remake called
Train to Busan.
Well, there was Korean. It was Train to Busan, which was really good. But there was a French film called Night Eats the World, which was really good, which was essentially about a young man who was a gamer who becomes trapped in this apartment. One night, there's a zombie apocalypse, and he ends up fortified in an apartment building. And, over the course of several months, because he did have food and water and, some other equipment that he jury rigs to help him survive. 5, and there was a Korean remake of it, which I think was even better. I can't, I'm blanking on the title right now. I saw it when everything was locked down, and I had a little more than free time on my hands.
Okay, all right.
But so yeah, you can do something. I mean, if you can figure out a new angle, or even just make the old stuff really, just execute it well. Make it really engrossing. I mean, look, I'll go back to, or just make it fun. Look, I'll go back to this idea of superhero fatigue and what constitutes a good superhero movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Okay, it wasn't good because it wasn't at all appropriate for the characters, as well as just having really bad CGI. But Guardians of the Galaxy 3, best of the bunch. A lot of fun. Spider-Man, No Way Home. I put it in the same category as Avengers Endgame, which is that derailed multiple plots and character arcs and has massive gaping plot holes. Doesn't make sense if you think about it too much, but is a hell of a lot of fun. If you've been a longtime fan, it rewards you. I'll even go back to what is generally considered one of the worst Marvel entries, which is The Incredible Hulk. I won't say it's a good film, but it's a fun B popcorn, B movie action flick that you can enjoy with you catch it on cable with some freshly popped microwave popcorn. Okay, I mean, I'll rate it above Thor: The Dark World, which was just dead boring. The worst thing a superhero movie can be is boring.
Well, while we're on the topic of failed Hulk movies, might be a good time to mention that our good friend and our longtime contributor Murray Leader is back in Volume 3 talking about the Ang Lee Hulk with a very interesting take on the Eric Bana version, with a very interesting view on why he does a good job of talking about why it's a better film than you're remembering, and in fact, with the current state of superhero films, it's aged better than maybe we realize. So for all of you who are Hulk fans, you will not be disappointed in this volume. We have some Hulk and green action for you in Fantastic Flops.
I think sometimes there've been films which have been adaptations of. Oh,
John, I wanted to give Mike a chance.
I'm terribly sorry.
Okay, it's okay. I'm sorry about that. There. Okay, all right. Well, I want to give Mike first chance to this question, then I'll come back to you. All right. So while we're on the topic of comic books, now might be a good time to do a what if. Mike, did you have any close runners up? Did you have some other things you were thinking about doing other than Pride and Prejudice and Zombies?
Well, it's funny, the Fantastic Flops. I don't know if you kind of deliberately left this vague or if it was a happy accident, but it seems like it's kind of cool that some of the writers went with the sort of golden turkeys thing and, wrote about movies that are quote, quote, bad and generally considered train wrecks. And then others like me went like, these are good watchable movies that just bombed at the box office and didn't make money. There was a movie that I always talk up to people, but when I saw the list of the other things that were weighing in, I'm like, no, this is a square peg. It doesn't fit at all. It's this kind of adultly funny drama called The Man from Elysian Fields, and it's sort of Wonder Boys meets the Philip Marlowe, the Robert Altman Philip Marlowe. What was that one? I'm blanking on camera here. Not Farewell, My Lovely. I'll think of it.
It's not the one with Elliot Gould.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the title.
Yeah, The Long Goodbye. The Long Goodbye. So yeah, so I was like, well, that's a movie that I think is a fantastic flop because anybody that likes either of those films, The Wonder Boys or The Long Goodbye, would like it, and it's well acted and really well made, and it's it's kind of explores this fun idea of a writer whose first book's a hit, like in Wonder Boy. Second one, he's locked, he can't go anywhere. So character played by Mick Jagger offers him a chance to be a male prostitute, and then he gets into a relationship with kind of both sides of the couple. So who among us could not relate to that? But instead of watching it again, I looked over the list and I kind of thought, well, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies fits in better with what else is doing, because I'm not totally sure if you're going for good movies that bombed or bad movies that deserve a second look. But either way, this kind of rides the middle. It kind of middles out. Could be either one.
I think in the last book, someone actually did Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Murray Leader again.
Yeah.
Great.
The field is wide open, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of glad you didn't do that, Mike Weatherford, because in a book where I'm doing Plan 9 from Outer Space, I would have felt like just the total goof among all these respectable writers. Yeah. More so than usual, I might add. Yeah. Well, Mike Lafferty, how about you? Do you have a favorite failed film that people should have paid more attention to? A film that you like to advocate for?
Oh boy, there's a bunch I can think of, and I'm looking over your list on the Ghost Show Facebook page, and there are. I don't want to name anything that you guys have mentioned because you're covering a lot of movies in here. The Curse of the Cash People, Ishtar. I see Alice Peng is covering Sucker Punch. That would be one I would have mentioned. Martin Scorsese's The King Comedy is a fascinating movie that just didn't do well at all, even though it had Jerry Lewis. And
in a role that will surprise you.
Yeah. It's one I would probably mention. Idiocracy didn't do well at the box office, but it's kind of a classic. Kingdom of Heaven.
Becoming a documentary.
Yeah. Kingdom of Heaven. I really enjoyed it. I saw it in the theater. Didn't perform well. That's decent Ridley Scott film. I could see some flaws in it, but I think it's probably still worth a look. Office Space. I don't think I need to say anything more about that. That really is a cult classic. So yeah, just off the top, those are the few that I would mention. It's amazing some movies that bomb that I see on this list that you didn't realize bomb, like Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Office Space, Idiocracy, Lebowski. I guess if you just count the initial theatrical release, but I'm sure they've recouped many times over by now.
There were a lot of movies in the 90s and early aughts that would just barely break even or just under at the box office, and they'd make their money back on DVD sales. And that was a business model. An awful lot of Matt Damon's movies and Kevin Smith's movies. That's how they were doing stuff. But technically a lot of flops. So
it's an unholy link, but I'm going to post it up here anyway. There you go. That'll take you to the list of films and contributors if you haven't seen it already. While you're there, you may want to like the Ghost Show Press page, and you can stay up to date on news like that. But there you go. There's a link to where the list.
That is one super califragilisticexpialidocious link. I gotta say.
Yeah, there's no good way to link Facebook. I have found as again in my wizard tower here. All righty. Well, John, did you have any runner-ups? You want to tell us? We got 10 minutes.
My runner-up actually was Ang Lee's Hulk.
Oh, okay.
And I saw it. I saw it in the theater with my younger brother when it premiered, and when there was initially a lot of buzz about it, just because Ang Lee was a hot director at the time. He'd come off, I think, The Ice Storm and some other films that were critically acclaimed. And obviously, it didn't perform well. And it's an interesting film. I don't know if it's a good film exactly, but it is an interesting film.
That's what we specialize in.
I would say that he never quite decided on what kind of film he was actually turning out. Was he, actually going to do a film that replicated a lot of the feel of a comic book, and I'll point to a scene with when Talbot, attempts to destroy the Hulk with an RPG, and of course the Hulk just grabs the rocket, tosses it back. There's an explosion, and then you see Talbot, kind of frozen, and the scene is transmogrified into like an animation cutout, like a panel from a comic book, or pardon me, was he doing something with a much more serious, somber tone, which tells you why, he cast Eric Bana, who again was coming off, a real career high in terms of just, one praised performance after another, but, Eric Bana was, a very traditional leading man. I mean, tall, good looking, well built. And yeah, I mean, he conveyed, Banner's depression and anxiety, coming from a very abusive background, but you didn't get the Stan Lee conceived of the Hulk as, kind of a Jekyll Hyde split, with the Hulk being able to do what Banner wanted to but couldn't, and unleashing the id, but Eric Bana looks like he I remember the scene where Talbot, I can't quite remember the actor's name who portrayed Talbot, is just beating him up and throttling him in his living room, and I'm thinking, yeah, but Eric Bana looks like he could knock this guy's head off. I mean, there's no need for him to turn into the Hulk. He could, I remember, I don't know if any of you are Seinfeld fans, but there was an episode where Kramer takes up karate and he's describing his struggles. And then he talks about how he's gained the confidence and he now dominates the dojo. And then Jerry finds out that he's in a class with 10-year-olds. It says, you don't need karate. You could just wring their necks. And that's what I thought of, when Eric Bana is getting, tossed over his sofa and slapped around. I'm like, you look like you could just wring this guy's neck. The eyes don't have to go green. You don't have to split the shirt and yet somehow have the pants stay on. Really, it's okay. You could just punch him out.
Hadn't seen it in years, but it's interesting. It's like they just tried it again with the Eternals. I think they're like, well, let's get this quote art house director, indie film artsy director to do a commercial craptacular. And it seems like they tell them, don't worry about the special effects. We got that. Our guys got that. You just worry about the character scenes and the nuance. And you do what you do. We'll do what we do. And I remember in the Hulk's case, the CGI wasn't there yet, for what they were trying to do.
That too.
It didn't.
Honestly, if you,
and I'm sure Ang Lee was like, "Hey, it's not my fault."
Yeah, yes, they couldn't make it look, they couldn't make it look at all convincing. Again, I don't think it's a bad film. I don't know if it's bad. I don't know if it's good. I think the problem is it's just a bit of a mess. I mean, you have Ang Lee, Eric Bana giving a very serious performance, and I think Sam Elliott was effective. And then you have Nick Nolte, who's in a different movie entirely, doing this, absurdly hammy scene chewing stuff.
Every Riff Tracks fan we have listening just cracked up at the mention
of Nick Nolte.
Yeah, they have a running gag whenever they're riffing a film and they find a character in terrible circumstances. One of them always goes, "Nick Nolte, what are you doing here?" And Mike Nelson will dredge. "Well, let me tell you something, Coachies. It ain't every day they leave the dumpster at the Costco unlocked."
That can work. Like if you're doing Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Okay, it works, but not if you're trying to do that. This particular version of the Hulk.
Well, while we got 5 minutes left, I wanted to do some concluding business here. Like, give you guys a chance to talk about things that you have going on. And when I think of people that have stuff going on, Mike Weatherford, you pop first into mind. You want to tell the folks what you got going on, at least for another couple days?
Well, I'm 85% fully funded on a Kickstarter project that times out Wednesday morning, but no pressure, no panic there.
You're practically there, 85%.
Is this going to show up backwards or upside down? I won't try to. But yeah, it's my attempt to create a comic series, Drive-In Kings of 1977, and it's sort of a callback to my own high school misadventures in that day when me and my high school buddies, they didn't call it cruising for nothing, and that was before there were gay overtones to that. You could just drive around
or a really terrible Al Pacino film.
Yeah, you could just aimlessly drive. Yeah, and that was a few years later, so we were naive to that. But you could aimlessly drive around the suburbs, or you could go to the drive-in where you could see all kinds of stuff. And the movie ads of the day kind of evoked this, literally this kind of surreal, different world. And so I had this long gestating idea about those high school guys kind of going through the screen and ended up in this world. And I'm trying to turn it into a 12 issue comic series. And so, yeah, the Kickstarter, there it sits at 85%. So put your hand on the radio. Tammy Faye, I need everybody to open up their wallets by Wednesday morning.
It's a great series. It's well worth your support, and there's the link. So please do drop some funds on a worthy project there. All righty. And John, what do you have coming up? Tell us quickly, please.
Well, like I said, unfortunately, my personal life has gotten a little crazy with I'm probably in the same position a lot of people my age, where I've got an aging parent and an aging relative, and then so I've for the past few months I've been a caretaker for like a couple generations. So I've been a little harried. I am writing, of all things, a children's book.
Oh,
so I hope to get the art going on that. I don't know whether I'm going to self-publish it ultimately, or if I can get an established publisher to pick me up. I rather hope so, actually. I think it's going to be targeted toward younger children. I think it's going to be. I think it's something they would if you like pets and you like neat little life lessons that present in a fun way. I think sort of grade school level kids would enjoy it. So I'm gonna try to get it out there.
Please keep us up to date on that. And Mike Lafferty, what's coming up this week on the BAMF family of podcasts?
The BAMF family of podcasts. On Monday, we're talking with a nice lady called Sarah Dallinger, who's running Kickstarter right now for an art book called Astrofauna. It's a collection of art and short stories and systemless creature stat blocks. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful Kickstarter. It looks like fun. And can I share the link with you for Cocaine Owlbear?
Sure.
Speaking of movies, I'll put that in the private chat. Yeah, we released this last month, and it got a ridiculous amount of coverage for being a mockbuster mini RPG about cocaine owlbears. Let me share. Do you mind if I share the tab?
Okay. I was all right. So yeah, and there's your link.
Uh-huh.
I did see that earlier, by the way.
Yep, that's the cover. That is a Honey Heist hack. If you're familiar with Honey Heist, which was kind of a splash 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. Jacob Blackman, one of our friends, did the art.
Wonderful artist.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Beautiful singer too. If you ever have him do his version of Muskrat Love from Captain Tennille, it's a tear to your eye.
By the way, I think even as I think by the time I got to be a tween way back when, I sort of figured cocaine was how wizards actually ended up creating owlbears.
Well, yeah, it could be, but yeah, that's been the most high profile book I've released in a couple years, and just I'm going to release all my RPGs on the tail end of viral marketing campaigns for bad movies now. But yeah, check it out. You can get it for $1 on itch.io, and it's 5 or 6 pages. It's fun. It's owlbears, cocaine, also called Fantasy Cocaine Heist Crew. So anyway, that's what I got. So yeah, this Kickstarter for Chris's book launches tomorrow. Chris, talk about it.
Yes. And I wanted to just talk a little. Take. I apologize if I'm running over my own time here, but talk a little bit about what I am very honored and blessed to be doing. I am going to be talking about Plan 9 from Outer Space, which was the plan, which was my plan all along. But this is sadly this is sadly the first ever Go Show book that we're having to do without the incredibly talented Darren Watts, who was a longtime friend and. After 20 years of talking about how we ought to work together on something and coming close a number of times, we got to do a book for Greater Than Games, and then we got to do this. And it was so great to finally be working with a very, 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 very unique talent and a uniquely gifted and generous and kind man. And the last conversation that Darren and I had was right before Christmas 2022, when we were laying the groundwork for this book, and Darren pitched to me doing the great lost war movie made by a religious cult, Inchon. And it was just such a perfectly absurd thing to want to do, and such a great testament to his tastes that he would even remember that film. And it's a great loss to me and the world, quite frankly, that this beautiful man left us on New Year's Eve. So as kind of a last farewell to him, I am going to try to write what I think Darren would have wanted to say about Inchon, and talk a little bit about him as a creator. And I talked it over with Darren's widow, who's an extraordinary woman. If there's one good thing come out of this tragedy, I finally got to talk to her. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the money that would have been his writer's fee, and we're going to donate that to Darren's 2 favorite charities. So what would have been Darren's portion of this book, we're going to be splitting that between the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund and a food bank that Darren supported. And being really into comic books and helping his fellow man, no more Darren thing I could think of. So when you support our Kickstarter, you're not only going to be supporting some great writers and what I would like to consider a champion of creative freedom, but you'll be paying tribute to a dear man's memory and helping out 2 charities dear to him, and we would appreciate your support for that all the more. All righty. Well, we've gone over our time. Thank you, Mike Laverty, Mike Weatherford, John Polajak, and Lisa Morton for being with us. We're going to be back at 8 o'clock every Sunday for the foreseeable future as the campaign progresses and as the book comes together. And we'll hopefully be welcoming some of our backers and supporters here and just having some fun talking about weird offbeat movies. And we certainly thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for making this possible, and thank you in advance for your support. And we cannot wait to deliver you a great book here very, very soon. And until then, I am Professor Christopher McLaughlin, and this was The Ghost Show.